So the other day I went and saw the new Neon horror movie Together. And so today I'm here to rank my top 10 Neon Studios horror movies from the worst to the best. Let's get into it. Welcome into Grimm's Gates of Horror. My name is Grimm. This is your New Haven for all things horror movie related. And today I'm here to rank my top 10 neon horror movies from the worst to the best, since the new one called Together just came out this week. And so I'm here to rank them, well, the top 10. And I plan to watch the other ones too, but I'll probably make those into like shorter videos of me reviewing the other ones. But these are just my top 10, the ones that I've watched at least. And yeah, there's still some I still have to watch, but I feel like this is good for now. And if I have to update it, I'll let y'all know. I'll probably make like another video ranking them all sometime. I know there's a new one coming out later this year in November called Keeper from Osgood Perkins. Excited for that one too. But without further ado, let's get into this. And coming in 10th place, we have Titane. Now, Titane is a movie that I heard about when it first came out, but I just never got around to watching it. I think I was trying to watch so much at once that it just crossed my mind and I forgot to watch it. But Titane is critically acclaimed. I think it was at some film festivals, and it's in French with English subtitles. But it follows Alexia, a woman who, after surviving a childhood car accident, has a titanium plate implanted in her skull. And as an adult, she works as a showgirl at motor shows and develops an erotic fixation on cars. So she like sexually attracted to cars. After committing a series of murders, she takes over the identity of a missing boy, and she's taken in by the boy's father, Vincent. And during all this, she's pregnant with like a car baby, like the baby with like a titanium spine. So we just follow her through this journey as she goes on like some like serial killer murder spree, and then she like pretends to be this boy to like lay low. And so it's basically like kind of like a coming of age type of story. And I just feel like this one had like the least like horror themes to it. Like, yeah, there's some things that make you uncomfortable, like when her like stomach is like starting to develop, and you can see like the steel in her stomach, and it's like, ooh, that's a little weird. But the practical effects are really good. But I really like how they kind of like made this how they kind. But I really like how they made the story a little layered, as Alexia's transformation into Adrian, the missing boy, explores some themes of like fluidity and the performance of gender, as she tries to pretend to be this boy. And as she's trying to be this boy for this father, she's going out and she's like doing like she's trying to like dress in some like feminine clothing, and she's like trying to dance like a showgirl. She did in front of like all these like firefighters that she got like hired by or recruited by Vincent, the father of the missing boy. And I really liked seeing like the practical effects that they used with the fusion of flesh and metal when it came to the pregnancy with a car child. And like Alexia's physical deterioration brings out almost like Cronenberg style like body horror, which I did enjoy. And then once we do meet Vincent, the relationship between Vincent and Alexia / Adrian is tender, yet it's like a little unsettling, as we know the truth, but he doesn't. And even when people try to point it out, they're like, he's like gaslighting himself or like blindsided to the fact that this is not his child that's been missing. Just challenging the notions of unconditional love and acceptance, whether this person is his child or not, because it's like filling the void in his life. But the reason this movie is just low for me is I feel like it wasn't like that it was like it has some like unsettling visuals, but for the most part it doesn't feel like horror in my opinion. It's like really on the ambitious, bold, and like really like different side of like horror. And Agathe Rousselle, who plays Alexia, this is her debut, but she delivers a fearless, physically intense performance that anchors how real and like raw this movie feels. So I have to give credit where credit's due. with that. And then Vincent Landon, who plays, well, Vincent, his portrayal of a grieving father clinging to hope is deeply moving and adds emotional weight to the film's chaos. And then Julia Ducournau, I hope I said the name correctly, the director. Like I said, the direction is bold, and just the blend of horror, sci-fi, and drama into a singular like vision. I really like seeing the horror and sci-fi together, but it's just the drama where I just did not. It just didn't work for me. I think where the story kind of like tore me like. I think where this movie kind of got me is where it's more like a sensory experience more than a linear story. There's not a lot of dialogue in it, and when there is dialogue, I feel like it's not doesn't really feel effective to me. But again, I just feel like this movie is just a movie that's not made for me, and that's why I do like it. But there's just better movies on this list, better neon horror movies, in my opinion. But so with that being said, Titanium 10th place. In 9th place we have Hell of a Summer. I gave Titanium a C+. Hell of a Summer is a summer horror movie. Hell of a Summer is a summer like camp slasher, kind of like take like homage from like Friday the 13th and like Sleepaway Camp, where it blends like that nostalgic camp terror with a sharp and like modern twist. And it's directed by Finn Wolfhard, who you might know playing Mike in Stranger Things and in the It movies, and Billy Brick, who also star in the movie. And where this movie really shines for me is in its main protagonist, played by Fred Hetchinger, who brings a grounded intensity to the ensemble as this awkward and like kind of like not this guy that's not taken seriously, but he tries to step up and become the counselor that in trying to like run the camp by himself. And he's basically just like made fun of and like teased, and just like no one like trusts him or likes him basically. And Hetchinger, who I know from like the Fear Street movies, I thought he did he really surprised me in this role. I didn't even know he was going to be the lead when I first saw this movie, but when I saw it and I watched the movie, I'm like, okay, I really like this actor. I really like this character that he's playing. You feel bad for him. You have sympathy for him. And all the other characters, I feel like, are just kind of like two-dimensional. There's not a lot of character development with them, besides like a few like relationships that they have with each other. But other than that, a lot of the like character development was focused on Fred as the lead, and that's about it. And then the movie's mix of campy horror and like a coming-of-age drama with Fred's character, Jason. Well, yeah, his name's Jason. It like gives those 1980s like slasher feels mixed with like modern humor and like satire, which again, I really like those mixtures of the two, of like horror and like satire, especially if it's nostalgia horror with like modern satire. For some reason, that just always gets me, and like I really like that. And yeah, Jason just struggles with aging out of the kin culture, and just reflects like the broader anxieties about belonging, like what's your identity. And then a lot of the characters, they play into the same like horror classic tropes where the counselors refuse to believe Jason and they think that he's the killer, which is funny because Jason Voorhees Jason in this movie when he's not the killer in this movie. But yeah, just them being ignorant and stupid just mirrors like classic setups where warnings go ignored. But yeah, some other stars I like in this movie are like Finn Wolfhard and Billy Brick, who balance their dual roles as like directors and actors with like their like comedic charming. I felt like they played their characters really well, but they weren't like really that different from like characters they played before. They're just the same. They didn't have to really do anything different, in my opinion. But also, this movie was made with a low budget, so there are some kills where they do get creative, and then there are some like gnarly kills that you would see in like a Friday the 13th movie. But like about a lot of the other kills, I believe, are like off screen, so you can really tell like this movie was made with like a really low budget. But yeah, other than that, I feel like it's just a movie to have fun with. It's not a movie to take seriously, in my opinion. It's just a movie to have fun with, watch with a group of friends, and just giggle a little bit and enjoy like the nostalgic vibes with modern comedic timing. And I feel like a lot of people are going to get a kick out of this movie. But for me, I gave this movie a B-. So moving into 8th place, we have Revenge. Now, this is a movie that was kind of like nervous to watch because I didn't know how like triggering or like intense it would be, but for me it didn't feel all that bad after like I've watched like 30 Reasons Why and stuff like that. But Revenge is a French action thriller horror movie, and it's directed by Coralie Fargiat, I think. Fargiat. Wait, Coralie Fargiat. I'm gonna say, and I hope I said her name correctly. But it's the same director who did The Substance, which came out last year, and Revenge follows Jen, a young woman who is brutally assaulted, left for dead in the desert by 3 men, including her lover. And against all odds, she survives and transforms into a relentless force of vengeance, hunting down her attackers one by one after she was assaulted. And man, first off, I need to talk about Matilda Lutz, who plays Jen in this movie, who delivers such a powerhouse performance as she transforms from a carefree party girl who's victimized and to a blood-soaked avenger, and it's both visceral and emotionally charged. If there was like the movie, I was just like impressed by her physical and emotional commitment to this movie, and yeah, it's just brilliant. Like how she like performs in this movie, and like the supporting cast, which are basically the 3 guys, they play their roles as you think with like chilling raw realism, which is really scary and was I think is the threatening and scary part that makes it a horror movie, in my opinion. And it just amplifies the movie's tension and brutality, in my opinion. But yeah, Coralie Fargiat's directorial debut brings a bold and like stylized vision to the assault and revenge genre, if you know what I mean. I don't like to use that other word, but the movie is drenched in like this really vibrant color scheme and mixed with like a hyper realistic gore, blending grindhouse aesthetics with like feminist subtext, which I really like the blend of both. And this movie does flip with like the traditional male gaze at the beginning, and then by like the second half, or like at like the certain point where the assault happens, it's almost like the movie reclaims agency and like for its female protagonist, and like starts to like empower her and like show like how much of a badass she can be. And like at the beginning of the movie, I was like a little like nervous. I'm like, oh, I hope this isn't too like glorifying, or like it wasn't trying to like, or like it wasn't trying to give into the male gaze. But no, right after like that scene, there was like a where after that it transitioned into this woman and like feminine empowerment movie, and now I understand why so many like people praise this movie, because it's important. Like as we see Jen's like physical rebirth in the desert, of her psychological like, it's really like symbolic of her psychological like alteration where she's changed. Like she was soft, she was really like gentle, but then she's transformed after she gets as she starts off as like really gentle and soft and like, caring and sweet, and then it transitions from that to her being left for dead and just growing into this strong and like basically like giving into these survival instincts, and it just makes her like this badass throughout the rest of the movie. And you feel the power that she wields, you feel how strong and resilient she is. And I think more people, viewers discretion advised, like, but this movie, it does what it's meant to do. I'm going to continue watching this director's like filmography going on, because I was really impressed with this movie. I like this movie better than The Substance, I'll be honest. But yeah, and just exploring the moral ambiguity of revenge and the primal instinct for like retribution. And in this instance, I feel like she was completely in the right. Those guys deserved it. And yeah, this movie will just explain to you why women will choose the bear over the man. Like, if you watch this and you don't get it after this, then I'm gonna stop myself before I get demonetized. But you know what I mean. But yeah, to rate this movie, I give it a B+. I hate putting this movie so low because I do really enjoy it, but these other movies I just enjoyed a lot more. So moving from 8th place into 7th place, we have now Immaculate is the neon horror movie starred and I think also kind of produced by Sydney Sweeney. I could be wrong about that. I think she did produce it. Directed by Michael Mohan, and she plays this nun who who she believes she was saved by God after a near death experience, and so she like devotes her to become a nun, and he quickly discovers secrets about and Cecilia starts off as a virgin, but then for somehow she becomes pregnant, and it's basically they think that it's like the reincarnation of. And the movie starts as like a slow burn, but then like, and the movie starts as like slow burn, crafting a claustrophobic and eerie atmosphere, and I forgot what was. And she becomes pregnant. She gets like treated as this like vessel, and like they're treating her as like royalty, and like basically like taking care of her. All the other nuns and the priests, they're giving her what she wants. But then once she figures out like what's happening in that, they basically did this to her. She like tries to escape. She tries to get out of there, and there's just some really disturbing scenes when we see the woman get her tongue cut off, and it just really gives you those sense of dread and how intense like becomes, and like you almost feel like you're in the atmosphere. You're wanting to see this woman get out, and then by the end, I remember watching this in the theater and my jaw dropped because of like what happened at the end. I thought that was, I stopped laughing. I'm not even gonna lie. Like I thought that was funny. I was like, oh, just because of how like shocking it was. Like just the reaction. Like I did not expect that, and so I just burst out laughing in the theater, and everyone looked at me like I was crazy, which I probably am. But there's a movie, that movie that I really like, as the film was shot in like historic Roman locations, so it really does enhance that gothic tone that comes with like being in like convents, and the blend like of non-exploitation type of horror with tropes with modern horror sensibilities. I think this movie did a lot better than others did. Like, Pray for the Devil, for example, or Pray with the Devil. I forgot what it's called. That exorcism movie that came out a couple years ago. I think this movie's a lot better. I think this movie might be better than. I think this movie is better than The First Omen, and yeah, it just draws inspiration from movies like Rosemary's Baby, which I don't think I've seen the original yet, but I did see the prequel. So, but I did like the prequel. I think the prequel is actually the better one. But the Michael Mohan just uses emphasis on visual symbolism throughout the movie, like cross-shaped scars, red veils, and dimly lit catacombs to bring out that dread and religious unease that this movie kind of like protests against. And I feel like a lot of, if you're religious, you're probably not going to like this movie, and it's probably not going to be for you, because it's really going to kind of like trigger you or try to like make you feel a little like why would they do that, I feel like. But I'm not religious, so I like this movie, especially as we see the movie positions Cecilia's struggle as a metaphor for women resisting patriarchal control, which I felt that part being really empowering. And we see as Cecilia's belief in divine purpose is manipulated as her act of defiance reclaims the agency that she was looking for. And then in her pregnancy and the lack of medical care she has around her just reflects real world debates on reproductive rights and choice in choosing whether to have this baby or not, or like even being pregnant to begin with, which like is a whole topic in itself. And so, yeah, I applaud this movie for what it was going for and like the rich layered themes. Again, I give this movie a B+. It's not the best on my list, but it's one that I really do like, as it's provocative, unsettling, and blends religious iconography with feminist rage, using like haunting visuals and committed performances, and in the explosive finale by the end, it just makes it a compelling neon horror movie. And so, yeah, moving on to 6th place, we have Presence, which also came out this year, and it's directed by Steven Soderbergh. And yeah, this movie is really unique. And as a person who's like sucker for like paranormal activity, I went in this movie thinking it was gonna be like that, but it ended up being kind of different, as it's shot in the POV of a ghost who's around this house, and making the camera itself like the main character, and kind of like immerses you into this family's life and their drama. And yeah, it just begins with the ghost wandering through an empty house, which is soon purchased by the Payne family. Rebecca, the mother, Chris, the father, Tyler, the son, and Chloe, the daughter. And Chloe is grieving her dead best friend, Nadia, so we kind of like think that we're seeing it in the POV of Nadia as a ghost. And she gets like the first sense to like the ghost presence, so that's like a sign that as she looks directly into the camera, acknowledging it. And yeah, the ghost just observes the family's unraveling family dynamics as Rebecca is emotionally distant and morally compromised, and it's like she favors Tyler, the son, over her daughter, and Tyler is just really arrogant and cruel to his sister, and while Chris, the father, is gentle and to care for the daughter and questions why the mother is so like dismissive of her daughter. And as the ghost watches, it intervenes subtly, especially when Chloe is in danger or in distress, caring for Chloe. And it's like the twist at the end is what made it for me, as the ghost is revealed to be Tyler himself, as in like the final act of the movie, he dies somehow. I'm not going to say how, but he basically dies. And in the movie was just reliving his final months from outside his body, reflecting on his past cruelty and emotional like blindness, and it's really just about self-reflection, grief, redemption. Tyler's ghostly perspective forces him to confront his past misdeeds, especially a cruel prank that he played on a girl at school. And we see his self-disgust as the camera is like shaking, watching, like kind of like cringing at himself. And he stretches the room as he watches his living self tell the story of what happened. And just the movie's core message is about stepping outside yourself and understand the others around you. Be open-minded and don't be so closed off, as Tyler's ghost evolves from a detached observer to protecting his sister and trying to prevent all the things that happened from happening again as he's watching it all unfold, culminating in a moment where he wakes his living self to save Chloe, symbolizing his redemption and basically stepping in as his dead self and just doing what he can to redeem himself and becoming the protector and like hero of his sister. And yet, yeah, I will say all the performances in this movie, they weren't all that. They did seem a little, as we have Lucy Liu as Rebecca, who is like chilling and effective, a cold-driven woman whose emotional detachment becomes a source of tension, and like she kind of becomes like the cause of all the drama in this family, in my opinion. And then we have Kalina Lang as Chloe, who was my favorite character in this movie, who delivers a standout performance portraying grief, vulnerability, and a quiet strength. Then Chris Sullivan as the father, who brings warmth, wariness to Chris, as the father who sees the good in his children, but struggles to connect with them and his wife. But yeah, like I said, the first person POV, it's immersive and unsettling, making you kind of like complicit in the haunting as you watch it unfold. And the movie avoids traditional horror tropes, as there's no jump scares or loud music, but uses silence and like the natural lighting and like the slow pacing and like build to like the tension to create that like horrorish atmosphere. All the horror in the movie is about that atmosphere, and you see it like as it's building. But yeah, Presence is less about the supernatural and more about the emotional horror. Its ghost story with the haunting is internal, where a young kid is confronting the pain he caused and the love he missed. And it's just like a movie that asks like, what if you could watch your life from the outside, and like would you like try to change it if you had to redo? And I felt like this movie was beautiful, and I gave this movie an A-, I believe. In fifth place we have Together. Together is a new horror movie, and it's the reason I'm making this video. And the movie is directed by Michael Shanks and is a blend of body horror and relationship drama. Real life couple Dave Franco and Alison Brie play the star leads as Tim and Millie, a long-term couple who relocate to the countryside in hopes of their strange relationship. But after an accident in a cave, they begin to experience their bodies kind of like fusing together and becoming one. Their limbs, genitals, and even entire bodies, which is triggered by emotional and sexual tension. And this movie But yeah, the physical fusions that we see, a lot of symbolism for it within this movie, as it's a metaphor for the emotional entanglement and toxic attachment that two have to each other. As a lot of their banter back and forth, like the good balance between like the comedic banter timing of Dave Franco and Alison Brie, and then the really serious moments, you can feel the emotion and you feel how personal it is, and you kind of like sympathize with it, and it kind of like touches you whenever they get into it back and forth, and their bodies like kind of like starting to merge and them trying to resist it. There's a blurred line between the boundaries they have between self and partner, and is like asking yourself, what are you willing to sacrifice to be with this person? Like, as we see Dave Franco's character Tim try to still work on his music career, like he doesn't have a job, and Millie's a teacher, and so he's basically just working on music from home, and he's got a gig from like a friend that he's trying to go to, but like he's physically not able to because there's something keeping him close to Millie, and he can't leave her. Basically, physically, he can't leave her because of this supernatural thing, and it's basically like, what are you willing to sacrifice? And we see he makes it. He also kind of makes a decision to not leave, and because he just, for Millie, is just so strong, and even in the beginning we see their personal struggles and like anxieties about long-term love, as Tim hesitates to Millie's proposal, as like it's unexpected, and like he doesn't know if he's ready for that, and like the horror mixed with like the psychological horror fans movie, where we see, and the horror elements mirror the psychological alteration that we see when this couple goes through and tries to fix their relationship. And it's something that's in relationships where like you'll have fights, you'll have arguments here and there, but when you persevere and like get through that, and you have resilience with one another, you grow stronger, able to get past that. Once you're able to get over the hurdles and like work together and stay together, that's when you go through that like kind of like that phase, or like you get out of that, and it just makes that relationships much stronger than it was before. And yeah, Dave Franco and Alison Brie deliver raw, physically demanding performances that I was actually surprised by, especially since I've only seen Dave Franco in like comedies, the Jump Street movies and the Neighbors movies, which I love those movies, by the way. And he's always had that great comedic timing that I loved, and it just the real life chemistry between Franco and Brie, and seeing how magnetic and how well they just work together, it just adds authenticity to the movie, making it feel personal, making it feel relatable, and it just also adds to that tension and giving and showing the intimacy that they have. It just elevates this movie a lot more when it comes to the relationship, the horrors of like a relationship. Especially in scenes where we see their bodies literally torn apart or like trying to fuse together, makes for some pretty bizarre. And then there's only one or two other people in this movie, and it's pretty obvious to find out what is behind what, and it's a little generic when it comes to that. But the actor Damon Harriman, who is in this movie, he kind of like gives his to like the background of the movie and like what's happening and like the movie's mythology. And then this is Michael Shanks' feature debut, and he crafts a tightly narrative with a wicked sense of humor and a flair for practical effects. Again, practical effects are everything in horror. I feel like I'm repeating myself at this point, but his direction is stylishly grotesque, as we see these body horror visuals, which are like a mixture of like Cronenberg and Carpenter. And again, there's a great balance between all of the genres in this movie. We have a little bit of like comedic jokes, but it's mostly the horror with the relationship drama that really amplifies this movie. And I just love how there's a great balance where one doesn't overbear the other. They work together like a relationship would, and they become one together. So yeah, together, But yeah, Together is a bold, genre-defying exploration of love lost and the terrifying beauty of becoming one. And I recommend y'all checking this movie out in theaters right now. And yeah, moving on from fifth place, and I gave that movie an A minus as well. Moving on to fourth place, we have Assassination Nation. Now, this is a movie where I went into it not knowing what it was about, but man, this movie, I was surprised by how much I enjoy this movie. This is a movie, I got the movie on Blu-ray for $1 at Dollar Tree. And I haven't watched it till now because I did not know it was a neon horror movie, and I just found out. But this movie is wild, it's provocative, and it blends satire, horror, and really bold social commentary into a visually explosive narrative. And it's set in the fictional town of Salem. And the movie follows high school senior Lily Colson and her three best friends, Bex, Em, and Sarah, as their lives spiral into chaos after a massive data hack exposes the town's darkest secrets. As like there's nudes leaked and like just really dark. There's like internet browsing history leaked from like teachers and like principals and like just the mayor. And what begins as a scandal quickly escalates into a violent mob justice, with the girls wrongly accused of being behind this, and they're forced to fight for survival in a community unraveling from paranoia and rage. And this movie plays into those themes of how easily personal data can be weaponized when it comes to like nude photos or sex tapes, or just getting like and just like these like clips in this information that can ruin someone's lives, where they can get them fired and them want to like be in that dark state of mind, reflecting real world anxieties about hacking and online exposure. It also confronts that toxic masculinity, as we see a lot of the mob that's going after these girls are men, basically. And like there's like this one guy who's a neighbor to the protagonist, and like they have like an online relationship where she's like underage, and he's like basically her neighbor, played by Joe McHale. And yeah, it's just really deeply disturbing and like unsettling. And this movie confronts slut shaming and transphobia, especially through Bex's storyline, who is played by Harry Neff, which Harry Neff was amazing in this movie. One of my favorite roles that she's played, besides her role in like You season 1. I think I like this role a lot better. It feels more empowering. But Bex's storyline is a trans teen facing brutal discrimination within this town and this community by this like mob, where it's basically like it's basically like taking inspiration from like the Salem like witch trials, it feels like, where we see these women, like the men and like the older women who are like enabling the men's activity, go after these women. And just Salem's descent into chaos mirrors how quickly online outrage can turn to real world violence. And it's almost like this movie is like a modern day take on the Salem witch trials, which I actually really thought it did really well with that. And this movie is directed by Sam Levinson, who's known for Euphoria, and I haven't seen Euphoria yet, but now I see why Euphoria is such a great movie. I feel like this movie is really underrated. It's not talked about enough. But despite the brutality in this movie, the movie champions resilience and solidarity among the young women, as culminating in a bloody but cathartic stand against their oppressors, which are mostly made of men. So it's really empowering, and I feel like if you haven't watched this movie yet, you should definitely give it a try. Give it a watch. I really love this movie. I'm so mad that I didn't watch this movie sooner, because it's a movie that I really enjoyed. The stars in this movie: Odessa Young as Lily, a breakout performance that's crazy, a breakout performance in this movie, and she killed it. And that's like an understatement. She anchors the movie with such vulnerability and fierce, and like it's hard to believe this is her like breakout performance, because of like just how amazing she was in this movie. I'm shocked. This is me being shocked. Harry Neff as Bex, a standout portrayal of a trans teen navigating identity and violence, as we almost see her character hung, and yeah, that was crazy to see almost happen. Then we have Suki Waterhouse and Abra, who play Em and Sarah, who bring depth and grit to the ensemble, especially in the film's action-heavy climax, where these girls like fight back against the mob. And then we also see performances from Bill Skarsgård, Joel McHale, Bella Thorne, Danny Ramirez, where they add tension and menace, especially as the town turns hostile. I really like Danny Ramirez's character in this movie. I was surprised, and now I respect him as an actor a lot more. If you watch this movie, you'll understand. But just with the frenetic editing, just like with the editing choices and like the neon-soaked cinematography and stylized violence, it just creates a hyper real raw atmosphere. And then Levinson walks this tightrope between satire and exploitation, and like pushing boundaries to provoke that discomfort and reflection that makes it feel real, that makes it feel really uncomfortable. But I feel like, but sometimes like I'm a big fan of 13 Reasons Why, and I know that show has caused a bunch of controversy in the past. And yeah, I will say some of the stuff that they did was stupid, but I feel like sometimes you have to make movies like this that feel uncomfortable and that make people reflect on decisions and like their worldview on things. And I feel like this movie does that. It raises questions about, like, especially if like other men watch this movie. Hopefully stuff like this and stuff like 13 Reasons Why, stuff that that provokes discomfort, it makes you question and like reflect on what your views are and like what you think about this, what you think about that. And I feel like we need more projects like this where it makes men hopefully feel uncomfortable, because this movie basically makes fun of who like to objectify women and like take advantage of them and like basically like slut shame them. And I feel like we need more movies like this. And just the movie uses these chapter breaks and fourth wall narration to emphasize its allegorical nature. It's not just a story, it's a warning about how reality can be. And yeah, Assassination Nation isn't for the faint of heart. It's messy, it's loud, and it's brutal. But that's the point of movies and shows like this. It's a cinematic scream against the hypocrisy and cruelty of modern digital culture, especially towards young women. And this movie is great for its visceral energy and bold social critique. And that's why this movie is so high for me. And I was just really surprised by how much I really like this movie. So check us out, Assassination Nation. I'm probably going to make a short on this movie just because of how much I really enjoy this movie. I feel like it's really relevant to what's going on now. So, yeah, if you haven't watched this movie yet, go and watch it. I believe... Hold on, I'm going to look it up. That's what I thought. So, I had a Blu-ray before I remembered I had it. It's on Tubi. You can watch it for free on Tubi. So, I really recommend going out and check this movie. It does have a trigger warning before the movie, which I liked to see, and how it like uses it. But yeah, go watch this movie. Moving on to third place, we have Longlegs. And Longlegs is a chilling horror thriller that blends psychological dread with a mystery, and follows FBI agent Lee Harker, played by Micah Monroe, as she investigates a string of bizarre murder-suicides in Oregon. In each case involves a father killing his family and himself, leaving behind cryptic letters signed Longlegs. But the thing is, there's no physical evidence that links anyone to the scenes, and all victims share eerie similarities. And as Lee digs deeper, she uncovers disturbing connections to her own past, including a childhood encounter with the killer. And just where this movie leads, I'm really satisfied by the end of it. And yeah, Micah Monroe, she delivers a haunting performance as Lee Harker, balancing vulnerability and resolve, as her portrayal of a clairvoyant agent unraveling her own trauma is central to the movie's emotional weight. We have Nicolas Cage as Longlegs, who is an icon now, in my opinion, as he's been memed so much for this role. And he's just terrifying Longlegs. His pale makeup and just behavior bring out a demonic presence, and his restrained yet menacing performance just adds layers of psychological horror, making you feel unease when he's on screen. Then we have Blair Underwood and Alicia Witt, who offer strong support, especially Alicia Witt, in scenes exploring familial secrets and like institutional distrust. This movie is directed by Oscar Perkins, who is now becoming one of my highest like who's becoming one of my favorite directors, as Longlegs is a masterclass in atmospheric horror, as Perkins uses little like sound design and eerie silence and slow pacing to build the dread. And with that, we have the cinematography that emphasizes like claustrophobic interiors and shadowy basements of houses, reinforcing the theme of buried trauma. In the movie structure, starting as a procedural and morphing into a psychological descent, it's just really calculated and disorienting, as it's like giving off movies like Silence of the Lambs, Hereditary, and it gave me like the Zodiac vibes, which the Zodiac is one of my favorite movies of all time. And yeah, this movie is filled with rich layered themes, with evil being passed down through family lines, like Harker inherits her mother's guilt and psychic connection to Longlegs. And Longlegs serves as like a metaphor for the trauma and repressed darkness that a lot of people have, that subconscious evil. And this movie also explores how much control victims have when influenced by like bad forces, or like what's free will against manipulation, and like that between them. But yeah, this was just a like psychological mystery that I felt like it knew what it was doing. It knew like what it wanted to be, with how like calculated and like the take that it took, where it didn't feel like a traditional horror movie. It was like a psychological puzzle wrapped in like cult horror. And then with the standout performances and like the direction and thought-provoking themes, it's a movie that lingers with you after you watch it. And I love movies like that a lot, where it leaves you thinking, it leaves you like wanting kind of more and wanting to understand it more. And I feel like this is a movie that does that. And yeah, Ozzy Perkins is a director that I've been liking a lot lately. And yeah, moving on from third place, in second place we have Cuckoo, and it follows Gretchen, played by Hunter Schafer, a 17-year-old girl who relocates with her family to a secluded resort after her mother's death. What begins as a retreat for healing quickly spirals into a nightmare, as the result hides a dark secret where a scientist is conducting experiments involving parasitic reproduction and implanting alien offspring into human hosts. And the title Cuckoo references the bird for laying its eggs in other birds' nests, and this metaphor plays out literally and psychologically, as this movie explores themes of like body, autonomy, identity, and manipulation, as we see the scientists plant these alien eggs in the bodies of these humans, and like making them become like these and basically possessing them. And there's also this other character, Alma, who is a child that's like placed into Gretchen's family, which symbolizes the complexities of non-traditional families, as this movie explores how love and loyalty can transcend biological ties. And the resort that she's now staying at doubles as a front for unethical experiments, suggesting a critique of capitalism, tourism, and scientific outreach, as it looks like a normal like vacation type of place, but underneath they're experimenting on people, and some of those themes make it feel more real and personal. But throughout this movie, we see Gretchen's emotional fragility following her mother's death, which becomes a tool for manipulation as she's like more vulnerable, and the resort's decaying beauty mirrors her internal collapse, and just makes her confront herself and forces her to her sense of agency. And yeah, Hunter Schafer delivers a subtle portrayal of Gretchen, balancing vulnerability with resilience. Their emotional arc from confusion to defiance anchors the movie's psychological tension. Dan Stevens, who plays Dr. Koenig, is chilling but charming, embodying the manipulative villain with eerie precision. And those are basically just the two leads that I really liked in this movie. Tillman's Singer crafts a visually arresting and atmospherically dense horror experience, as the Bavarian Alps provide a haunting backdrop, while surreal imagery amplifies the psychological horror. And his use of slow burn tension and symbolic set design and little dialogue creates a sense of dread that again sense of dread that just leaves an effect on you long after the credits roll. And the movie is like another puzzle where it's layered, metaphorical, and open to interpretation, which I really like movies like this, and like that's why Longlegs was high on my list. And I feel like these two movies were like the best of last year. And moving into first place, we have The Monkey. And The Monkey came out this year, and it's another Osgood Perkins movie. It's based off of Stephen King's short story, and it follows twin brothers Hal and Bill, who discover a sinister, symbol-banging monkey toy linked to a series of mysterious deaths. And as children, they try to dispose of the monkey, believing it was cursed, but then decades later, the monkey comes back, reuniting trauma and conflict. And the movie involves a confrontation between Bill and Hal, where you find out that one of the brothers had the monkey and has been weaponizing it against people, and just a twist that happens at the end. I really enjoyed it, as the monkey was basically passed down from their father to them, and they discovered it as children, and then as they're grown up and one of the brothers has their own children or child, it just comes back to haunt them. And the monkey symbolizes the unresolved trauma passed down through generations. As Hal and Bill, like I said, they inherit not just the toy, but the emotional scars of their father's disappearance and their mother's death after the monkey kills their mother, which the mother is played by Tatiana Maslany, who I just loved in this movie. Even though her part is limited, she was enjoyable. And then the movie also creates this illusion of control. And then this movie also shows this illusion of control where it's shattered as characters try to manipulate the monkey's curse, as we see Bill try to weaponize it and like aim it at his brother Hal and like the people around him. And when they try to destroy this monkey, it just keeps coming back. It keeps coming back into their lives. It's undestroyable. It's invincible. And that death is inescapable, really giving into those Final Destination vibes, which I feel like this movie is just a lot better than the Final Destination movies and does it a lot better. And this movie also plays into the obsession of revenge, where we see Bill's obsession for blaming Hal for their past and blaming him for their mother's death, which leads to his downfall and his spiral. And the monkey becomes a metaphor for how vengeance consumes and corrupts. And the big standout for me in this movie is Theo James, who delivers a stand-up performance, anchoring the movie with emotional depth and intensity. Osgood Perkins, like I said, directs this movie and transforms Stephen King's short story into a gory, surreal horror romp where blends dark humor, creative kills, and psychological horror, making the movie both disturbing and oddly entertaining. And the use of visual metaphors like the Pale Horseman and atmospheric dread elevates the narrative beyond typical horror tropes, where The Monkey is not just a horror movie, it's a meditation on how the past haunts the present. And while it may not win any awards this year, its thematic richness and bold direction make it a compelling watch for me with psychological and supernatural horror. And yeah, this is my favorite horror neon movie at the moment. Hope you did enjoy. Let me know what your ranking of the neon movies are. Which ones are your favorite? Which ones do you recommend that I haven't watched yet that aren't on this list? Like I said, I still have to watch some of them, but I try to watch the most talked about ones, the ones that I feel like a lot of people like or talk about. And so yeah. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe and join the Gremlins and turn post notifications on to get notified when I do post again. I'm trying to post every week and post a short video every day, even though I might miss a couple of days, but I'm trying to be active. All my socials will be down in the description below. I have my Twitter down there, my Blue Sky, even though I'm more on Twitter now, but I'm not going to pay for Twitter. No. I'm going to be on there, but I'm not going to pay for it. But I also have an Instagram too. I have a TikTok, and then I also have my Twitch where I do some stream sometimes. So if you'd like to follow me on those will be down in the description below. And yeah, I'll have all the links to these movies down below. I don't know if Together will be ready for pre-order on Prime yet, but if you want to check out any of these movies, I'll have links to them down below in the descriptions so you can check them out right now.